Alright, so then Jibu Chungwa the Tumia Lamrim Lobsang Dorje, Chiwa Metapocum Yaki or the Marshu or what is another, and then Chiwacum Amagum Beni made that Chiwacum be a pioneer, Chiwa big lot, and then Gachita give you 2 years Chidach and Chida Chiwa Chida come to the Chasarwa. The Nala down the game. The Chiwa big lot, Losia can the children was Mores and a down. That is an answer. Leda Numo only Kiwa Tamji Shiwa, Shia Mado, Mashia Tarakin Mares, Chico Patanjares, and the Akiti Namching Emeres. Standing is other. She was ready in a dash, Nazumeshi, Tin Chabash and Top Deva Telia, and Divas Diva Chaya, Narsabe, Diva Diva Shaya Tang, and Jawa Chimaina, and you go on Toya, Tarbata, Tamji Kimbo go on, Lamchaza, Yamnichi, Koko Yudeva Delia, the nigger Kokopche, Marabache, she's on the Besasare, some Jetiniga, somebody that you Lolia, the nigger Lojama Main, but she gave you that Chiwa Temple Lokiva, the Kiva, the Dinan Shibi Chiwa Temple Lokiva, says Kiwa, she's a Chiwa Temple Losiadi, that the nigger, the Nishi Kill for a circular. Tis not the nigger that some Danadi. Leda Numo when Kiwa Limba Shinja, Kanehina, Mashiwa Kayama, Nimichi Res, the Shiela Navakaya Mares, Tizada, Mashi, the Nigo go up, Yamlin Jegi, when the Divas Jaya, and Kawa Tubegi, go up Yoba Delia, the Nizi go up Yamlin Matubachi, she's on the best Asare, some big some logic, Yavana. The nigger some look added on the Chiwa Temple Lossi or the loading on the Gom some daje, the German Mayimbaru Ketobachi or the Nijabana, the Lamrim the Super Chiwa Temple, and Chiwa Temple Lossi at Chagorwa.
Good evening. We're continuing to look at the chapter, which is the very first primary meditation of that is shared with practitioners of initial capacity, the meditation on the impermanence of this life. And this chapter has 4 outlines. The first, of which the first 3 we've looked at. The first outline were the faults of not being mindful of our death. The second outline were the benefits of being mindful of death. The third outline were what kind of mindfulness of death should be cultivated. And in other words, what is this mind that is mindful of death? And then the final outline, which we've started to look at, is the actual meditation of how to cultivate mindfulness of death. So when we looked at what is meant by being mindful of our death, this starts with recognizing that that our death is something that we have no control over. When and how it comes, it's something that will befall us. And also, our rebirth is something we don't have control over. We don't have power over our death or rebirth. So the reflection starts with, as its basis, the prior reflection on this precious human rebirth. This rebirth that we have each attained, that we recognize it has great value. Its value in particular is that we can utilize this life as a human being with our remarkable intelligence to both purify past non-virtue that is yet to ripen but abides on our continuum. We can use this life, secondly, to bring an end to the accumulation of further non-virtue. And thirdly, we can accumulate causes that will lead to ongoing excellent rebirths, as well as enabling our progression towards liberation and enlightenment. So this is what we've each attained. But this life is finite. It is going to end at some point. When it will end is unknown, but it is going to end. And if we do not achieve this life's potential, fulfill our potential, such a great loss. So recognizing that, we then come to the determination not to let this life go to waste, but rather to live this life with the clear understanding that death will come, and it can come at any time. Therefore, this incredible opportunity, I'm going to make the most of it and not let it go to waste.
지상 아주 디니엘에 달조 된 차와 세심로 지상 달조 된 차와 세디 단주 루틴디 삼다 디네게 단주 루틴 디텐델야 제냠네 가르지나 제투에 요바데 뱀마스 계침부시 신부시리 선배기 삼다제 텐델야 냠네 추신도 지긴 삼다에 대해서 달조 된 차와 삼다이로와 디네게 달조 된 차와 삼다네데 치와 가소레 데니 치워 템플 로키에세도 데니게 다주 된체와 디텐들 텔레야 데니게 냠는 지에 그 고고 여여 바지 아니 지 데니게 제마도 바지 시선에 뺏사사리에 섬다야디다 두신 로키에디 네 치워 템플 로키에 바세 어디 디시고로와 지산디 다디게게 된다 데니게 치워 템플 로데 야고 게디 가르치는 게 두고 말씀한테 치위고 삼루균에 마다와서 치워 템바디로 기 두고 말 되네기 치워 템블로도 약부게게 된다라 나 치워 템바디 치워 템나디데 되네 그래서 치워 템블로 검수사데 시고로와
There's a very clear link between these two chapters, and in one's meditation they should flow together, one building on the other, that of precious human rebirth and its impermanence. Where within the chapter on precious human rebirth, one of the key outlines was recognizing the great value of this life. And this was an important outline wherein we came to see that what makes this life so valuable is just what we can achieve with it, the causes of further excellent rebirths and progressing towards liberation and enlightenment. And the purpose of that particular outline, but of the chapter in general, was to not take this life anymore for granted, to no longer see this life as ordinary or commonplace, and therefore not naturally assume we'll have such a life or such an opportunity again, but to truly value what we've achieved, seeing it as precious. Now we add to that the recognition that it is impermanent. And not just a mere intellectual recognition, because this doesn't take much training, but the recognition that each moment it's passing. Each moment, the ending of this opportunity is drawing ever nearer, and that ending could be any time soon. So this is then the link between first truly valuing what we've achieved, and then recognizing how impermanent it is, and therefore not to let it go to waste.
Dine zada dinegi tin de kebachen delia dinegi nyamlen che go brava de mad chi tifashaya dang mundu go ba tarba ta tamjikin be lam nyamlen ma che shi sun pesar sambe samlodi ke de chiwa tembulo ke ba che de di ke ba na kharli giresena ndi chelia che zada ne chi na ne meba ma cha wa zana ke wa chima lingo de ke wa chima ke wa le gi ta chima type chime dewe tapte ba se de jel ma le de cha da nyamlen che de 다디디 배사서링 디 냠네 마체바 신네데 배사서레 삼배 삼로 자야제 다 데니기 삼로 기에서도 데나니 다 가리 냠네 제월선 내내 냠네 데디 제월에 해야지 데 숨고로와 제일만 또 숨고로와다
So this where we are in the fourth outline in this chapter, how to cultivate mindfulness of death. So this is the actual meditation on developing the awareness of the impermanence of this life. But to get to this point, we reflect on our precious human rebirth, and then as an introduction to this chapter, the chapter on impermanence. So this means by the time we come to the actual 9-step meditation, we with the 3 routes and the 3 reasons for each route, our mind is very motivated, and our mind is also joyous. It's not a heavy, oppressed mind as we about to meditate on death, but it's a joyous and determined mind that has come about by recognizing just what we have achieved, valuing what we've achieved, seeing its great value, and with that, a determination not to let it go to waste. So this is a powerful mind, a determined mind, but it's a joyous mind at having recognized this incredible opportunity that we have achieved. So this determination and joyous mind is what we now bring to the start of the actual meditation on the cultivation of the mindfulness of death.
On the negative, some of the Yamlenche, Gora, Yuba, the Majaba, she's some Pesagris, and this some of the Kege, Dondala, and Chiwa, some Tanguris in it, the Niki, Chiwa, some daddy, that Chiwa, Nebari, Namching, Emere, the Nichius in the Chema, or Shokang, Yaping Mari, as a big, the Negi, some of the Kibatan, Handi, Kissing to Shuban and Chesa, Anzulia, Chike, Kawaii, and she Mashia Yomares, you can't do Kiva in a Mashia Yomares, and Kiwa can't do Lemba and she do Resata, and then again, she had him. Let's go join the Tara Yomare, and then she get Kasore, Norda, Topta, Ungi to Onshoot on the Chiwa the Gatuya Yomare, not Japche Chiwa Gatu, Menju Chiwa Gatuya, much as Denise, Dushin Chiwa de Tara Yomare, and Namji Chiri, Dushin, some Dana, the Yakim, some died, she do recipe. 시에게 긴 김체 모두 전에 먹고 삼다다에 가서 가서 되는 쉬루와 진짜 되는 송 삼다에 다 시에게 다 쳐버려야 돼 시에게다 다 쳐버리려 되는 도시네 안다 삼들이 레어되다 되네 아니 다 마신이를 야냠는 제호도 선배 삼들 용도 보고와 이던달라 그 생각 마신이를 냠는 제호도 선배 삼들 쉬엘레도 보고와 냠는 제호도 마치변에 배사사를 선배다 대시 치워된 별로세디 용거와 다데디 다원 마시에 차상도 치워된 비게 되지 가상 쉬에 치워된 별로디 계게 된다라 치워 삼당하디기 치워된데 치기리 치워 내가 두말에 치유 김생이 되네세서 손에 차상지리다 치워된 별로야 뭐 계게 된다라 치워 공나데 삼당하 치워 공비 출래도 치워 삼당하디기 되죠 치워된 별수세디로와
So where we started last time and will continue with this weekend is the reflection on the actual meditation on the impermanence of this life. So which has 3 roots, 9 reasons, 3 decisions. So that is the actual meditation. But for that meditation to have the transformative effect, one not only needs to do this meditation repeatedly over a sustained period to develop a deep habituation to this way of thinking, but each meditation needs to include the prior steps whereby we in particular generate the recognition once again of just what we've achieved, how valuable this life is, that I must make good use of it because of all the potential that it holds. And within that, the previous chapter on the impermanence of this life, on the preciousness of this life, there are illustrations such as finding a precious jewel and not letting it go to waste, recognizing just what a precious jewel we hold in our hands. So that and other illustrations were given, and we can use this to call to mind, to recognize just what we've achieved. And then, when we see its value, and we start then the recognition of, let me put that to good use, not let this opportunity go to waste. To make that mind transformative, we then engage in this meditation, the 3 roots, the 9 reasons, and the 3 conclusions. So again, this meditation has these 2 parts. The prior recognition of this value of what we've achieved and how we must not let this opportunity go to waste. And then how not to let it go to waste is to make this mind powerful through engaging in the meditation on the impermanence of this life. And there last time we looked at started to look at the first root reason. There are 3. The first root is that death is certain. And within that, there are 3 reasons. We looked at the first, that death will definitely come and it cannot be stopped. So within that, we saw that everyone who has lived up to this point has died. Every single one, no matter what power they had, no matter what authority they had, what fame or wealth or religious attainments, everyone has died. I'm no different from them. I'm no more special than them. I have no more power than them. All these great beings, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Arhats, have all died. So too will I. And secondly, in that point, we reflect on how, and when the end of this life comes, there's nothing then that can be done about it. When our lifespan is up, our lifespan is up. There's no medicine that we can take that will prevent our death. When our lifespan is up, it will end. There's no meditation that can be taken. So no medicine nor meditation that can be engaged in that will give us everlasting life. Thereafter, we will come to further look at how our lifespan cannot be extended, but constantly diminishes. And then finally, in this route, we will also look at, but when this life comes to an end, we will see how little time we actually dedicated to meditation or to Dharma practice, and what a waste that was. So as to not bring about regret, now I will change how I live my life, as if this were my last day. How would I live it? And that is how I will live each day from now.
나 된 마무리 제 안데 김제디게 셰 제산 베 망부 권에 아주야 나이 내가도 또 시로에서 디고 쉐 책으로 안데 남베 찍게 된마 계신마 슈바나진데 베티네 베사티네 대양사 다가바 타타바 당 쇠자 쇠설 곰바레리 아니 녀르 소마 당 아니 축지 축랑왕 메바 랑네소 게와소 베두미에 권에 삼싱사
So let's turn to the text then and continue from where we concluded last week. So last week we, in the handout, in the ebook, we near the top of page 95, just below the quotation. So you can see there within the outlines, we have the contemplation that our lifespan cannot be increased, but diminishes incessantly. So that's page 95. In the published book, we're at the top of page 84. So start looking at the text. In addition, you should contemplate this using many analogies, and our Lama Tsongkhapa will present several, such as a weaver gradually weaving a cloth, animals for slaughter approaching the slaughterhouse step by step, cattle being led without freedom to their destination by a herder, and so forth.
니만에 가지고 밀레를 대해서 미싱이 제시로 왔다 디레레되게 타야되게 제가 되네게 직 타도급라 타가 봤으면 타간 가사들라고 니게 타도 구버 충주지 파다 수단지 탄 두수신 조르고와 진짜 구버디에 조르고 엔바 디타네 타선 탈발레용으로 니나신신에 저기 대시 당보여마 된마 타과도 타게 돼 조라 탈레리고로 니나신생 안주 봐 깨네 아니야 지가 셔셔셔셔 다시에 되긴 삼들리고 해서 진짜 니나신 델리아 베저제네 타가비게 타타바단 베저제네 내가 저기 있기네 아니 시주고요래서 시단된 지기지기지기 두수교와친도 두시네 안 개버차되네 시주고래서 두시네 벨자디 삼다스 온거와.
So the first illustration, a weaver gradually weaving a cloth. So here we need to go back to how this was performed in ancient times. Now, of course, weaving is largely automated, but this text was written 7 centuries ago, and then weaving was largely done by hand, and later simple machinery was developed. But when a weaver was weaving, they would be using some thread to weave their cloth and create a pattern. And in their process, eventually the thread would be consumed, the pattern would be plain to see, and the weaving would be finished.
그래서 난 예망아주 타갑에 타다가 간살에 빼자. 나 대사 미신이 타고로 미신 다전데 딜레 다 요가지고로. 근데 미신 당보대 타야지. 그 당보도 지네 요 말된 타게 타야지 따따따따 요거 타는 요거 조르고로. 그래서 디나 생아주 미세디 딜레 요가지고 당아주도 신상다면.
whilst the process being automated is much faster than it used to be, the meaning of the illustration is the same. Once the materials are used up, the task is completed. It is finished. So too, once our lifespan is utilized, comes to its end, just like the thread of the weaver, when that comes to the end, it is finished. There's nothing more that can be done. So whilst this process now is automated and very quick, from the perspective of a person who's reaching the end of their life, it will feel like their lifespan too has ended incredibly fast.
Dangbo din ma che sosa del do du modana drobe na da komba ja do na chi pa do du sosa del pa ta nyang li gu ro da an ta ma sosa del li din soe jin me ba su cha gu ro wa din na shi ko drobe ko zu ne pa ki ji lam sa ta nyang li gu ban na shi ma zu ne a me ji ne so de ni shi ye de ya ta nyang so ki ji de ta nyang ru go ma ru go res je na sosa sem jen di pa sosa pa ti de ta nyang so shi sa de ta nyang li go de ba na shi nga zu ne shi ye de ya ta nyang ru go res je na din ne ge du sin pe de cha go ro da.
The second of the three illustrations, animals for slaughter approaching the slaughterhouse step by step. So these days this will largely be done by large truck, but in the past then a herder would have led their herd or their flock step by step to the grounds of slaughter. So the analogy here is just like every step that the animal takes, it's taking a step closer to its death, but is largely until just before it can smell where it is completely oblivious that these are the last hours of its life, then the last half an hour, then the last minutes, and suddenly it becomes aware of where it is. It hears the cries around it, it smells death. Only then does it know. So this is where we are, taking our steps, or sitting here comfortably. But the truth of the matter is, with every breath of ours, we are moving closer to our death. When that time comes, we may well look back and say, just a few days ago, I was sitting somewhere quietly, hearing teachings, but now my life is ending.
Ando la dini dige da nga zuge kiji pa ji do ba yo ju ba de dingo song go da ji le nga zuge ji ne du kiji pa chi se le ta nyer du go res ji sa du su zhuo ne ta ma le ya xi du go res ji sa ma xie la yo ma res ji sa du xie sam da ne xi pa yuwa zhuo de nga zu sam na la ge di na ga yo san xi ma re san be sam lo xue de ro da o ni ma ya nga di wa ye san be sam da a nga ni lo ni ma de ne che bi sa da yu ne yuwa zhuo de ma zhuo ba ni ma de na da de ni ji ba ro sam da de ge rong zu le o nga ni ma de che bi nga di je nga di ka la se nga cham ja de nge le ga de shi sa o di da de nga zu ki shi de ni ma de ji ge shi de ni ma de da de ni ji ba ro sam de ge rong zu le 이나 삼다와나 녀마드 파 지진다 유어시 우친제 백코론 카가 될래요 레스고로 디나진 아주다 드누게 드누 유아 마르가 장아서 어당아 산이 디지기 나이 줄로지마 디지 소소라라 다가라 니기 여바 삼나 장아서 날래요 제산 유어 기네 마르바 다가라 네되게 삼 딱바지메 딱센지 아주 레래요 봐 여러분 제산 디 삼노디 매바 쓰고 제산 디 삼노여서 제산 두수수진 yuwa chinji duzu yu zhugo res, chesan yune yuwa ma zhuwa chi yune dugo ma res, chesan duzu chine kechi nga zu chi zhu jiba yur che pa xie le pa ta nye zhuwa chine nimi chigla dade xie chine lu di chesan meba cha zhugo res, duzu chine da kechi jibi ji zhugo res, xie yang du dine yu zhugo res, samda jik du xie che, tang du yugo res, sam tang yu du, dine ke samla yagwa tang tu bayi ne, dine nga ma gi di nga re sambe samlo da nga gyuni bu de re sambe samlo de le go ma da nga zile da nga zule gi di na ma ju wa cha ta ga ra de re sambe samlo de ta zin re de ne chang zu gi la yo shuk chen bo yo re Denige thousand the doya dondala, that was Jena Kichi Jitu said this Sungore.
These of the three illustrations, what these two show thus far is momentary change. Our life, whilst we are living it, it seems very busy and that there's an expanse of time ahead of us. And for all of us, this is how we live. We put the inevitability of our death out of mind. We accept it intellectually, but we are rather deceived by this innate sense that we will always be here. And this is a deeply flawed misunderstanding. We can accept this intellectually, but this is not how we live our life. And the truth of the matter is, as presented in these illustrations, when our lifespan ends, that's it. It is done. Then there is nothing more that can be done. So how we have lived our life is not with the wisdom of understanding the inevitability of our death, of living within the actual, or being aware of that we are living in the shadow of death. Rather, we live a life distracted by bright lights of pleasures that we've enjoyed or pleasures that we desire to have, or the dark lights of the problems that have befallen us, or problems that await us. This is what dominates our mind. And in this way, our outlook stays narrow and small. We don't fulfill anything close to our capacity. Our capacity can only be fulfilled if we challenge this grasping at permanence. Then we'll look up from all these distractions, see the bigger picture, and value what is important, letting go of all these problems that dominate our minds, so not being so drawn to and deceived by all these pleasures that we believe have a value, which they don't. But to get there, we have to recognize that we are like these animals blindly being led to their own slaughter. Every moment we are approaching the end of this life. It will not be long before every one of us will be gone, and all that we hold dear will be left behind. To recognize this, we need to challenge this innate sense that we will always be here, which is this grasping at permanence. And the antidote to this ignorance, that is grasping at something that is in fact changing momentarily as being permanent, the antidote to that is to meditate on impermanence in the way being presented here.
And the Choran Kanga Test, the one in the Choran Rebessan as Marwadi, look, Yama Kanga Test, Penelo, Jujongas Nilet Midi, Kanga Tevene, and Yabuchumbi near the Kanga Tevene. Daddy did Anyama Captain Lord Jongas Cavadrosarwa. Cesada, Lord Jonga Cavadrosan, Daddy, Lord Jonga, how you the Kembadi, Yama Dika Yomarwada. 소소 량운의 중요 말 소소다 단 규칙 받질 중요 말도 소소는 원의 중요 말 봐. 지사 내내 삼다베는 두신의 삼다베는 디네 녀마게 디네 중요디 앞에 야고 중민의 독자 중샤선 베게 뱅아베 삼디 나 삼다디 저 총조야겠네. 지그 예 첨부여 봐. 이나다 나도 녀마디네 중비기 금천의 때내 마음바나 되네 강아 마태에게 sab서 제대로 예치 모여 봐다. 중 예매기 주비 금천의 때내 안에 되네 제외내 강아 되네 태우도가 돼서 되네 마음바나 마태에게 탑시 다디 제마도 네 예마 안솔라 게디나 Nyamade Sosura, Imba, Shishara, some Taji, Chisnadi, do the Kichi Guadu, Chichimba, some Yakuta, or that Nyamadi, Nyama, Yungamachi, Madame SMP. That those Nyama Jungo sometimes Nanzude, Yawangama de Jungo de Tichumba, sometimes Pedukjares and Yawangama de Yawachi, and some Dangu, Chibara, the Lord Chuchong and Yele, that Yawangama sometimes. Gewangama Susule Pensibu Dobine, and Sedelia Susule Ganga Stevine, the quote Gansa di Yujiba Shamado Gansa Kagarwa. In a Dangi, Gewangama meeting Alien, Nusolagum, Pentos, Lagomara, that Sedelo Lord Juchong and Yelena, or that digging Alan Nusos and Alan Nusos and Chibar or some Dandigova. Just like the Negadu in a Kichi, Kumsendu, send some Daguado, Guado, some Tavena, then the Negi. Dancing Gewang Yama, long Amig, Aming Medici, Rangi Chiba, sometimes dancing the Lodi, but the water. Chun to water. Dancing, right? Chibare, sometimes did. You are Yama did that. I think Chibare, sometimes Yaman, you are never sometimes that is also you, my you are the Chibara, such as you are Unimadua, sometimes you are. They tapas in Basio, dancing silver.
This grasping at permanence, this is an ignorance, because we are grasping at something that actually in reality does change every moment, but we are grasping as if it is unchanging. So this English word permanence in the Dharma, it doesn't mean everlasting, it means unchanging. So the grasping at unchanging is an ignorance, because it is that phenomenon is actually changing every moment. So this is an ignorance. Because it's a consciousness that is contrary to reality. And perhaps initially, when one challenges this ignorance of grasping at the person or at oneself as being permanent, when one is actually impermanent, take a past event that occurred to you, that hurt you deeply, and whose hurt still affects you. So let's say something happened 15 years ago, and still when you recall that from time to time, and when you do, there's a strong feeling of negativity about perhaps what someone did or what someone said or what situation befell you. So now what's happened is a memory of something that happened, say, 15 years ago, has arisen in your mind. Your mind then grasps at that memory, and from that, an emotion arises, a suffering emotion arises. So we've taken, if we now then look at this process, we can look at two components. One, the event, and the second, the experiencer of that event. So that event is long gone. It happened 15 years ago. It is long gone. The only place that action or those words or that event exists is as a consciousness, a memory consciousness. And the only strength, the reason it has that particular strength, whether a memory is weak or strong, that it has such a strength, is because of the strength that we grasp at it. That is what gives it its strength. To the extent we let go or we grasp, the result of that is we experience it strongly or mildly. But the reality, though, is that event doesn't exist anymore. It is gone. Then secondly, the person who experienced that event, you 15 years ago, you are not that person anymore. Your body at a cellular level has completely changed, perhaps more than once. You are not physically that person. And mentally, your mind changes constantly too. You have been so many different people between then and now in the sense of just how much your mind keeps changing. We feel like I am that person to whom this event happened or those words were said. But the reality is, we are not that person. But we grasp at ourselves as if we are that person, this unchanged person. Now, if we approach it from a third perspective, again, this illustration is about something that happened 15 years ago. When we use our intelligence and we ask ourselves, how does something that happened 15 minutes ago, 15 days ago, 15 years ago, or 15 lifetimes ago, how are they different? How are they similar? They are all the same in that they don't exist anymore. They're gone. Something that happened 15 lifetimes ago, we have no memory of. Something that happened 15 years ago is as non-existent as something 15 years ago. It's gone. We are equally not the person of 15 years ago, nor 15 lifetimes ago. And this process of momentary change applies to something of 15 days ago and 15 minutes ago. So this is this reflection that we need to engage in. The topic is impermanence, or changing, momentary change. And it's to challenge our grasping at permanence, or this as events and ourselves as being unchanging. But the event has changed. It doesn't exist anymore. We ourselves have changed completely between now, at this moment, and these many years ago, or days ago, or lifetimes ago. So this is the reflection we need to go through. And doing it again and again, we'll start to let go of things by developing a wisdom and relating to things in a truer sense, a more realistic sense, not giving something that does not exist a power that it just does not have. But we give it that power through the way we grasp at it.
축지기 축랑와 매버랑니 소께와라 소베스데 제사당제 지게 심젠데기 바치롤 바 다시네 가섭질랴직 축지 바 수뒤지네 랑와메바 사지델라 티용고로바 고 도마라시오마 데네용고로바 제사 데네 안 사지델바 파기고로바 대전 데네기게 예바나신 다 축지디마 도마로 랑와요마 가서 축지기 바 데용고로바 디거로바 벤 대사간 주디와 벤 룩다한 키디기 유직근에 키디기 박강발 소저로 대어도 고 랑하면 도용도 디나신진에 안 주직이 대어도 안 주디기 바 소스데사텔이야 랑하면 도고 작도 와스 베디나신 가서 깨네 시에대야 수술에 랑하요 말에 제사도 규대 깨네 대바 랑하면도 세기지기지 조로 대 주직이 대바 나지 기지기지기지 파 대신에 주안에 랑하면바 시루고 제사 시에대야 랑하요 말에 가서 규대 깨 생기 고 랑하면바데 네 도도신의 시도야래 제사 시에라 랑하면바데 배나 주직이 추수배 대여도 고마 마로라로지 곧 랑하면바 조고도 와서 디나싱하서 기지기지 지시마 시엘리아도 랑하면바 시루고래 세치자 시와델라 랑하면바 두신 삼다들이지.
Then the third illustration, cattle being led without freedom to their destination by a herder. So here we can think, perhaps rather than cattle, we can think of sheep, and they be a sheep being herded by a kelpie, so like a sheepdog. So those sheep, they go where they're told, and they have no choice over where they go. The farmer tells the dog what to do, and the dog dictates to the sheep where they will go. And we are like those sheep in that we too have no freedom. We have no freedom in this context, in the sense of our lifespan, and therefore when this life will end. This is dictated by our karma and afflictions. We have no say in this. We cannot determine, we cannot will a lengthier lifespan or a never-ending lifespan. We cannot do that. We are still under the control of our afflictions, and therefore we are without freedom, and so too is this lifespan, which is drawing to an end. Every moment is one less moment we have in this body. Each exhalation is one less breath we have in this body. And this is something that we have no control over. Just like sheep or cattle being herded, they go where they are dictated by causes outside of their control. And this is then likened to our situation too.
Dadine, Geshe Thubten Rabten, Geshe Thubten Rabten, and Sisum Mida, Dengi Jinada, Drevi Geshe Gala Dada Tsong, Drevi Cedro Namki Lotra de, Reserve Babshuta Neuro draws, she bit to me soon so.
And Lama Tsongkhapa continues. This is also taught with numerous analogies in the Sutra of Extensive Play. I'm just adding a couple of words in the second and fourth line. The three existences are impermanent like autumn clouds. The birth and death of beings are like watching a dance performance. The course of a being's life is like a flash of lightning. It goes so fast, like a steep mountain waterfall.
That Sisum Sidi, that Sawa Sadian Sally said sick page, Dustina Dana Yana, Chige, on Kasore, Nansonta, Lada, Mi Saje, on Dusine, Sisum Siva Sum Sedeza, Nansonda, Lada, Mi, La, Nansong, La, Mi, or the Denige, Gasor, Yana, Diabata, Sisum Sene, Diabata, Sutan Sume. Debi Siba, Sedeta, Debi Siba, Dine, Suki Siba, Sumi, Siba Sum, Chesa, Leda Numo, on Siba Sum Sedeta, Leda Numo, on Debala Kewada, Ikebaina, and the Zulu Kewaina, Sumela Kewaina, Kamsum Gandu Kewaina, Siba Karikewaina, and Nimiji and Eba, Gene Meva Charomado, Nikichi, Gurchin, Meva Charomado, Mashiva, Hayo Mares, or Sisum said, Siva Sum said.
Looking at the first line, the three existences are impermanent, like autumn clouds. So the three existences, this can be understood in a number of different ways. Sometimes it will be presented as, the three existences will be presented as under the earth, on the earth, and above the earth. That would be one. Another would be dividing into the lower realms, that of humans and that of gods. So that would be a second way to divide the three existences. And the third would be into the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realms. So these are different ways that this term can be, in different texts, will be presented in one of these three ways. But here, whichever one calls to mind, the meaning is the same. Wherever one is born, one's life will come to an end. It is subject to change, to momentary change. Hence, it's impermanent.
That just Siva Sumdele, Dushire Pena, answer Kichi Mitabare, Mato, and Timonio Mares, Mitaba Yurugores, Pena Tungi Gina Jas. She's a Tungi, Julia, Timba, the Timba di Pani, Chick, Tusin, Levena, that the Timba Tusin Lamsa, Lapiki, go to Hawama, that the Minusa de Leo, she the Timba Corona, much the Timba di. Go in the Habi Dini, Ken Meva Charuda, Chisan Gabriel Timber Yuvan, Timber Lamsa Meva, Gabriel Timber Dodo Yuvan, and then Timber Torch, part of using Meva Charter, didn't Chesa, Dungigi, and the Tina Jas. Dungi Tina Tower, set Tin de la Rama, Kichi, usually, that the Yola, that the Meva Charter, that the Dodo Yuvan, that the Tortoya La Sobata, Denigi, and the Chiki, Toy Meva Charter, check it was, or Bettina Jing. 저게 대바기 레다 뉴모 대바 개발렘바이나 개위 가사다 수기 개발렘베 가사다 수미네 개발렘베 가사 차사 안에 기지기지 지님이다 봐는 이미지 교르치는 매 신이 매바 차르고래 해서지.
And the Buddha gave an illustration for impermanence from the natural world, that, like autumn clouds, in that clouds can seem big and solid, but we know in no time the wind blows them away. So too, with whatever life one has, just like each and every single life that we have had previous to this, as well as all other beings in any of the realms, whether under the earth, on the earth, above the earth, or in the three realms, or in the different classes of beings, whilst they may feel their lifespan is long, while they may feel they have time, in no time their life will end. So whatever circumstances we have had and we have now, our life will end.
Grala Dana Tsung City, that is on the draw, Yada Numo, Jewa said, Chiwa said, Jeza, this way, yes, and negative, Jewa Jang, Jedin Masha Mares, is that Yene Pa, Gushi, Shido, yes, and Anti Pa Chunjun Ma, Churches, Gushi, Gurushin, and Yamachido Ores, Jeza, Chiwa de Gian, Chis and Ajay, you never do go, Chiwa, Yanji Gigor, Jezon Guru words. 이제 깨지기 균루고서 저희 끼치디 균루고레스 베나서 갈라 따당 총서데 가르세야디 가르소라세는 한제 참답간디게 시고래 참다도 미지 참지차도 당보직 둘로 가보로 주연제 잡 대제 파친데 둘로 마보로 주건 고수 참다데 둘로 담마로 건집게도 수도 유루고로 와 냐마든 집지가 통고 말 가가가 통고로 유루고로 와 제사 가타벤디게 안지 둘로 전에나 유루고래 근데 수부 요구 전에 제외네 구교다한테 유원 지고 유루고로 마다 집지가 되고 말와 제사 되니게 파 참탑간 가르들이 따와있나 고 죄버 그 강라 유타디게 파 직직 유루고래 아니 수 둘로르베도 수부 루이가서 수부디게나 유루고래 그래서 둘로지 잼바르 제바지 그 미라미라 통한 거로 유르니마 집지가 되고 말와 베디나신 가르기 가르 탑간디 둘로다 말아 건지 수 규르제 미라미라 템바 나신 안디나 참터되거로 수부 요거지 미라미라 제반에 균조와 나신 아니 아주기 로이 깨와디야나 파기에는 파 유르유르 바치 치루고 제가 예산의 유어균을 되면 누가 말해서 내 치루 깨루고 제가 치와디야는 마 라오메 바 치루야나 치는 아직 파지 깨와는 유루고 마도 누체레 제가 로이 깨와다 치와셔야지 기지 유루고레스 마도 딱고 템부 예산의 치야균의 매대가 시산의 아니 깨와균의 매대 되네 말해서 제가 기지 유루고 그 되네 하신 빼나 가르 탑간기 아니 베니고와 수교와를 탑단하신 답에나 지발에 에스피디나시에서 숨으로다.
The second line, the birth and death of beings. So this then is referring to this process that we have been bound in since beginningless time, of we are born and then we die, reborn and then we die. There is no variation to this sequence. Where there is some difference is in terms of the lifespan. So some humans so birth is considered from conception. So they are conceived, so they're born into this world within the womb, but they perhaps don't even get born from the mother's body. Others are, and they live some years. Others are born and live some decades. The lifespan will vary, but this ongoing process of death followed by birth, death followed by birth, as well as death coming at any time, something beyond one's control, and birth in any realm, in any life form, beyond one's control. This just continues. The only consistency is momentary change. But this process is just like we died in our past life and we're born in this one too, death will follow. Followed again by birth somewhere. This just continues. Then the Buddha presents an illustration. The birth and death of beings are like watching a dance performance. So a dance or theater is used here as an illustration because a theater or a dance is a place of constant transformation with the actors or dancers changing their clothes, their roles, the emotions that they need to display. And with each change of character, they are then gone. And our life then resembles a dance in this way, as it goes through its many changes. Sometimes our mood is like this, sometimes it's like that, sometimes we are playing this role in our life, sometimes that role in our life, and then it's over. So in this way, our life resembles a theater production or a dance. And it's a process over which we have no control. There's an illusion of control, but we have no control. This life will end when our lifespan is up. We have no control. And we will be born where our karma dictates. And this has been the case for life after life after life.
Chamdavendi, Gabrielia, do lo Gabo, Gabrielia, do Marble, Dole Sebo, do lo Tamara going to Guru to Anashin, Anzuki, Johati, Yene, Shito, the Gabrielia, Nasola, Gabriele, Dendole, Halak, Gabriele, Milik, Gabriele, Dendole, Gabriele, Idalak, Gabriel, Nyawaka, she's not your land, never have Maris. She's not. 참 타브게 둘러지거나 유숙지게 하나지 개발은 세대다 말을 봐 개발링 걸 두신 개발링으로 와서 두신에 지사다 되니게 직부 규례 규어줘야면 딱봐 땜부디요 말이에요. 제가 두신에 유루고 되는 두고를 증해봐요. 막 가와게 돼. 지사 딱봐 땜부 뭐엔자 가블링 마솔레게 가블레 둔돌레게 가블레 녀와게 지사 수규와나지 참 타게 되게 둘러 담아를 건반에 가지고 가블레 둔돌게도 숙디미다와실래야죠. 밀리게도 숙디미다실 라르게도 숙디미다실래야죠. 어디나신 둔돌 루이데 귤귤귤 담아르게 walling 그래서 지사 되니게 지속게와디 되게나 지사 규다게 가르치는 게 walling 거였습니다. 아주 유 디과사이도 나솔 마기야다 네데리 띵게와 사바네 딘들기 알아 소바다 어두시네 용고로 와서 거다 된다라.
So in the same way that actors change their clothes, their roles, the emotions that they're required to display, this is likened here to our process of ongoing rebirth. So we can liken our various rebirths in the various realms that we are born to the various characters that actors play. So for ourselves, sometimes, as now, we are playing the character of a human being. In a life previous to this, it would have been a character, say, of an animal or a character of a god. Similarly, just like actors change their clothes within a specific role, we too have our varying personalities, our various mental capacities. So as humans, we've got incredible mental capacities, but as an animal, we do not. So these various roles that we play, they all come about dictated by the causes we've accumulated. If it's a role where we have excellent conditions like now, clearly this has come from extensive virtue. But those being suffering in intense pain, or without the mental capacity that we as humans have, their situation has come from non-virtue. So here we see the impact that causes beings accumulate have on the various roles that they play.
Drove che draw Namke Lota di Sida, drove che, said the Dangi, Kamsona Gidi, Drovege, Anzugi che, Zordo Edige, drove che draw, Kamsona Gileda, Numo, Gidi, Kamson Gibi, draw the Gigi Cedi, Ganesres in a Cedi, and the Ganes draws, go shoot wars, set draws, new shoot or Zordo wars, Bendigo, but Zordo, you Zordo wars, to wars, Benas. Namge Lota, said it Ben Namgalia, Jig Dang, Lord, Parston Lamsan Zodu, Odinashi. Indeed, Namke Lord, Beshare, Best mother, doing everything as a save Tongorwa. Says I didn't answer, said, they did a yard over city. Says Namke Lotas, the Namke Lord, Jokes Parston Lamsan Zordovanashi, and to get city again, that kitchen petty Lamsan Zord, beautiful.
In the third line, the course of a being's life. So this then refers to the course of a being's life. So the length of this life, and the Buddha again here draws on an analogy from the natural world, being likened to a flash of lightning. So this is perhaps one of the quickest things that one can observe through our senses. And here it's likened that our lifespan really is like a flash of lightning, even if we live a full human's lifespan. When we think of the immense span of time that we have had life after life after life, this one is likened here to a flash of lightning. And in fact, when we really expand our mind to this vastness of lives that we have lived, it could even be said that this life is quicker than a flash of lightning. So this analogy from the Buddha is to try and wake us up to just how quick this life is, how very brief and very fast it passes.
지난 전에기 세트배 시고 요거 되는 두고 받아 하고 말이다. 가서 전에상 안 저기 어다 가사다 디리다 찍바 요기는 찍바랑 임바로 삼디고 그래서 다선 되는 셀레리요. 지난 배 요거 때데 끼지끼지래 두수 유루고 때 가서 뒤 하먹어지는 파두시네 다가랑 가사들 여바다 다디 여바 다가라 찍바랑 여바 다가라 찍바 요마로 여디바래 삼백이 삼로 뒤에 뒤 다선에 지난 되네기 뒤 samlo tang di ta mares chida dine za dang du su ki yu ru go res pene nam ge lo da tax par lam sang so ru du was dina shin du go dile yo ga ru go re das chida da nga mo yu wa che ta kwa tempo du go ma da chida kha sa da dine ta yu wa mo kyne ma chi bu chi kya yo re sam je de sam lo no ru re su go da.
So whilst this is the reality of our life, we do not experience it like this. We look back at an immensity of time, these decades. We look back at yesterday and think, oh, yesterday, today, pretty much the same. But this is because of our grasping at permanence, at things being unchanging, which is an ignorance. This is not how things are. So if we think of a lightning flash, especially if you look at it slowed down or captured on film and slowed down, you can see this movement. And you can recognize how from one point to the next it moves. So we can see then just how quickly it moves. And this then we can liken to this life that is changing momentarily. We experience it as being static, but every moment it's coming closer to its end.
예, 나도 신은 유아주고 대한서 하고 말에 베네다데 저기 천지귀시도 간저 점블링디 바지 말 고라저디거나 점블링도 고주고 점블 코랑 두스 꼴고 고주고 세기로와 이내 점블링도 꼴고 여바데 가서 하고 유니 하고 문다디 가서 점블링 간에 되되고 때 사이 간에 되는 비슷한 거 데스 두스 꼴고 여바데 가서 유니 하고 가면 조금 쉬우지 꼴고 와 무슨 꼴고 와 이내 가서 꼴고 하고 그 말하다 제자다 누우시네 딱 그 누에 민도 심주체 제바체 선택베데 제바체는 어때데 조금 쉬우지 꼴고 하고 그걸 받아 근데 제바체시네 꼴고 받 하고 서로 마도 나 저기 제바 맞지다 이네 고고마 나 저기다 선택베체는 미선에 기시고 고고래서 삼마도 소속에 다시 하고 윤 하고요 말아 제가 고고요 받이 콜고요 조금 쉬고 고고 되가서 하고 그거 말데 돼서 레레 되려 통고로 제가 디나신 안서 체득배 조금 쉬고 주고 되가서 하고 그거 말아 제가 한 모아서 대충 두스 제바시 삼다 두수수 삼단 언니 녀마되는 시에 당아 충분히 되는 시에 수불 바다는 아메키를 되는 두수는 체르체는 다녀망이디 아니 저게 자디게 되네요 다되네 샤샤샤 다당이디 저게 수부기 아니 입디게 녀마된다 되네 샤샤 두수 수수기 심주를 제바이나 두시네 유어두고 바데 라바라바 하고 텔레파 차사서 진짜는데 어때 끼지끼지 유어두고 어때 땡땡 끼지끼 유어두고 선배 삼로들이 돼야 유어바다 제가 되네자 베디네게 돈에 망보 송제네 안솔야 유어두고 봐 제바체에게 삼다의 시고 송고다
So for millennia this earth was experienced or observed as being static. It's only in comparatively recent times has science come to recognize that this earth is spinning and spinning incredibly fast. But for a long time this was completely unknown. Now we know that everyone here accepts that this earth is spinning incredibly fast. But this is not how we experience the earth. It's not how we experience our world. We still experience it in the same way that it was experienced before science recognized this. So we know that this world is spinning, but we only know this intellectually. It has no impact on us at all. And this then we can liken to the fact that we all intellectually know that we have a lifespan, and this lifespan has a fixed duration. We don't know how long it will be, but we do many things to try and hope that we live out our lifespan. But we know we have a lifespan, and we know we're drawing ever nearer to its conclusion. So this we know intellectually, just like we know intellectually that the earth is spinning. But just like we don't intuitively recognize the spinning earth, it has no impact on how we live our life. So too, with this ever dwindling lifespan, this has no impact on us yet. We still live as we did 3-4 decades ago, believing there's an immensity of time before us still in this life. We have opportunities still to do what is worthwhile. This attitude has not changed from when we were young and full of energy to how we find ourselves now. We still live with this delusion that there's this expanse of time before us. But now, if we use our intellect and we look back at just how this body has changed from when we first enter this world, this collection of cells and then becoming this watery mass, and then at the small form and then an infant, and then our various stages of visible development, this body has changed so much. It's grown, it's become strong and vigorous, then it seemed to abide for a while before entering its process of decline. And within that, the change has been constant, moment by moment. But what has been constant throughout this is this deluded belief, I still have loads of time ahead of me, despite all the observable evidence.
Research Ritsin ma chuch ma sayong ben ma sayong but chimani ma jo shu shungor ma de dipara de yen ma le jin dipara de ngezi jap de ya ma ka ya chine man tik ma sa ru gore be jo shu ma li goro ben resabutin ma chi chud ma pa ben de jo shu du goro ba din na shi nga ju ge lui di nga ju ne 아메니 끼네 송대 아니 시에바 조금 쉬우지 되네게 출마사지 바 나신지는 조금 쉬우지 두고래서 유어 두고래지래.
And the final line presents another illustration showing that how the course of a being's life is like it goes so quickly or goes so fast. And here the illustration is of a steep mountain waterfall. So this too is a very clear illustration. We call to mind a waterfall, and we think that waterfall comprises of countless water droplets. Not a single one of them abides still for a single moment, but is rushing towards the river below. This then we can liken to this life of ours. From the moment of conception, we have been rushing moment by moment by moment towards the point where we'll crash into the river below. So here, this too shows how quickly our life is passing, despite this ignorance of believing that our life is moving slowly.
Andu sinema simjuti dine samda dugabla dine galesen dena nadu sambi tiksuibashik ane jigla chiyungoba tamjigi midaba midwenba me siesungba dar yimbe goduma ne le mangdu samnenge ba gyala gyenge ba gyes nenge ba gyes junze rela majung shebe mipente sa ondos
Then after the quotation of the Buddha, Lama Tsongkhapa continues. Yeah. For someone with certainty arising from inner contemplation, there are no external things that do not demonstrate impermanence. Since this is so, as has been taught, certainty arises if we consider it repeatedly from many angles.
And the said part you do so do some conceptual na sema nangla sambi chiksuba ngeba nyeba chunguri yesora ngeba nyeba chiksuba sti ngeba nyeba so da de redo sambi samno tachoba chigiri yesora dena nangdo sambi gi chiksuba shigla chiksuba chunguri yesa chiksuba chade den redo sambi ngeba nyeba chunguri yesa chiksuba shigla sajire chiksuba shigda da dona dire.
Look at the first part of the sentence. For someone with certainty arising from inner contemplation. Inner contemplation on the illustrations presented above, using the illustrations that this life that we have, despite its appearance of being still, is actually moving incredibly fast, nearing its end with the speed of a steep mountain waterfall or of a flash of lightning. And this, though, despite this being the case, it is as unknown to us as cattle being led to their own slaughter. So by using these illustrations, we're calling them to mind in meditation, keeping the conclusion of the meditation alive within us during the day, we can come to gain certainty about the reality of our situation.
데니기다 데니 삼단지 녀버녀버 실리아도 아니 치용오버 탐지기 미다바 미드바메스 치용오버 가르치 통베나 차상이 미다베나 바등음마도 미다바마도 바지요 말했으니 데니지 녀버녀버레 손에 데니 치용오버 가르치나 아도 미다바레 깨지기 집이 미다바라시레 선비게 삼노지 아니 레투고르 제가 미다베게 치용오버 탐지기 미다바마도 바메스 가지기다 치용오버 차상이 아주 미다베나 바등고레스 제가 데니게 삼노 따신 아주 녀버 The
meditation advice is always has these aspects of you cultivate the topic as advised in the manner advised in the meditation, then you keep it alive as you go about your day. Keep it present in your mind, and if one does so with this topic, now the sentence continues. There are no external things that do not demonstrate impermanence. So the meditator who's reflecting on impermanence, if they meditate in the way that's advised, where when they go about their day, they keep the topic of meditation alive within themselves, present within themselves. Everything that they observe, everything they hear, they see, they taste, they smell, they touch, everything they observe, they will recognize is changing momentarily. It is impermanent. It may appear to my mind as being static, as being stable, but it's actually quivering with change. Nothing is stable.
다들 차면 님의 약고 땅되어 시나 야 dim바케지 님의 값되게 된 요새 되네 봐도 간에 삼다는 유저에서도 아니 지 교함에 뭐 치용어 간에 신다 왜네 베네 지신으로서는 배지 바치데 장고기에 되는 매도하셔 하는 매도시 파이 인바차 매감 매와셔 한 가슴이 신호랑 감지 마차 균이 매와셔래 도시네 따외네 제가 간에 삼다외네 치용어 간에 실다외네 기지 유루고요 버도 마유어서 싸우기는 민도아산 비게 매바데 통고를 봐 제가 밑에 쳐서 밑에버 뜬거를 때 이랑 알아서 삼다다 돈에 밑에버 임바 삼다마도네 밑에버 하고도 그거 막 베네서 밑에버 임바 등아서 뜬거 레디 뭐이니스를 레디할 때 만족이다 통고 말 제가 도시는 빼두면고네 삼다데 다 친구버 간에 밑에버 남바를 통용 그래 제가 되네서 디네 삼당에를 아니야 안주기 체디 잠기 자와려야 아니 닝보 여러분도 선배 삼다 제자다 디네게 끼지끼지 체 용부돼야 민도 끼지싱야바 민도 왔습니다 시바인다 지상 안주기 개와 치마이네 지기 디기 용해 두고 제자 디네자 디징이 디과 냐마사샤바 디과 샤야다 개와 다 치마 디기 용해야기 개와디 좀 같은데 뺏사사래 선배 삼로디 디니실리 두고 리고로 받이니 진짜 딜리 삼르게 되다 치와 템블로 게 탑랍나 두스네 삼다나 안 치와 템블로 디기리 해서 중으로다
So for this meditation on impermanence to have a deep impact on yourself, you need to do the meditation on the impermanence of this life, because that is the most important topic, to bring about a change in what we value and therefore what we prioritize. But to bring that change about, one does not only meditate on the impermanence of this life, but takes it as presented here, to all that appears to one's mind. Because everything that appears to our mind by means of our senses, and most of what we think about, is impermanent. But we relate to it as if it is lasting, unchanging. So for example, people have the habit of, when they meet, commenting on the weather. Or when they look out the window, observing the weather, or looking at the weather reports. So this is something we do. But do this through your understanding of impermanence. So tonight when we leave here, it's going to be cold. But then we will enter into our cars or our rooms, and it will be warm. That will change. And if you're driving home, you will then get out of your car, and it'll be cold again before you move into your warm house. This is always changing. Earlier, before you came here, it rained very hard. Now outside, it's not going to be raining. The ground will be a bit damp. Tomorrow, when you come, the ground will be dry. It's changing all the time. And in a little while, maybe some days or some weeks, we won't be talking about that it's cold. We'll then talk about, now it's really pleasant. And thereafter, we'll talk about how it's warm, and then we'll complain that it's too hot again. But there's this constant process of change. And sometimes we're even surprised that something is unseasonal, for example. But there is this constant flux of change. And it's also very clear when we look at the flora. Now there are some buds that have grown, and some are even blooming. And some leaves are starting to show where they perhaps weren't before. This is all very nice, and we have an emotional response to that. But be aware that this has all come about in dependence on causes, and it will therefore change. There's nothing static here. It changes. So too then is our body. As quickly as this weather changes, so too is our body, so too is our mind. In the same way that the weather of earlier, the rain, has come and gone, so too is our body changing. And it's in this process of decline. Even if one is in the strength of youth, One's body is nearing the end of this life, nearing its death. This is a continual process that we tend to deceive ourselves about because these changes are gradual. And even when they are rapid, we don't think about impermanence and relate it to all that we perceive. This then, we also then need to relate to the pleasures that we yearn for, the pleasurable memories that we have, and the problems that we are so desperate to avoid, and the problems from the past that still torment us so. These are of really no value, but we chase them, running towards or running away from them as if they have a value. But recognize their ephemeral nature, that there is nothing there worthy of striving for. And in this way, we get towards one of the great outcomes of this meditation. What we value, what we prioritize. This life is drawing to an end. Let me put my energy into cultivating what has value and not be distracted by the pleasures and problems of this life. They will all pass, as each and every pleasure and problem has. Let them go. Put our energy into what is important. So this is one of the important outcomes to come to through this meditation.
Alright, that didn't keep it do some daje, do some data, sosoran la dang, sosoran some pitty, some time pit on and then la soso some time, so to tanga do so kichi do you are to work, it's a tenishi to a resha, that touch about it, then that machinelia, and then it get to majevache, machines on the pesasare, some big some like this some like that the pesha sasare, some like Kevaina, this some shukchimbu Kevaina, then Gewa Tuvia dan Dipashaya some di Dumba di Leon Core. It's not delay on Banda and Gewa Tuvia the Dipashaya and Gewa Tuvia do, then Anzuki, that done down Omadi, that Miu Gudis, Tiki Gudis Sagurvada. Then I did it, Angela, some no do in Mongos, Chevachewadi, Utangadini, she to her, she to Venda. She let it, she was camera, some Shioga camera, she in, but again, the same day, and the Tayas camera. She said, she let some assembly Shioga. The Niki she the young in Yamlin Machevaji, Tibo Sha, Mashabata, giving Yamlin Macheva, she's on the Pesasa, assembly. This same day, she had a cousin, now to do go up Yeri, but she said, go up here by the go up Shorsona, Yonwa. She said, Yon assembly sometime, but she do resemble sometime on it. Marva. She said she was the Gautuya government, some Missy, because sometimes Mashi the Suam ever. She said, Dinner is down to carry yours and needed Tibun Kirup, Majiba, she's on the best Asare, some time, Tibun Kirup, Jago, go up your J to go, the Tabla Mures, Dinner is that Tibo might be in the best Asare, some down good age. Dita, Chiva Temple, or said, did it, I didn't want to have a child. The Yapuja Dandala, that the Pima Journey shared some Danta to say, or some Dennis Tangwina, the need Chiva Temple, the Yapuji, Kiri order.
So in this reflection on impermanence, meditate on these two approaches. One is this meditation on the impermanence of this life, with the 3 roots, the 9 reasons, and the 3 decisions. And there is the second part, or the companion, which is to take this understanding of impermanence to everything that we encounter. Because almost everything we think about, everything we interact with through our senses, is actually impermanent. It changes momentarily. And when one is reflecting on the formal presentation on the impermanence of this life, this is very clearly linked to this life. But when you're meditating on the part of the meditation that's relating to everything else we are encountering, recognizing it appears as if it's lasting, but in fact it too is changing momentarily, then relate that back to your lifespan so as to emphasize this point. This life is drawing towards its end. You can use some of the analogies as presented tonight. For example, as sheep being herded, cattle being taken to the abattoir, and so forth. Use these so as to challenge this wrong view, this ignorance of believing we have time, that there is still an expansive time before us. Remind yourself, you've believed this throughout your life, but this is, and you still are now, despite being so much older. This is not based on anything other than ignorance. Then the conclusions to draw towards is this recognition that with every breath, I am drawing towards the end of my lifespan. My death is drawing ever nearer. By seeing this, this gives me great power. It gives me the opportunity to use whatever portion of this life that it remains well. If I take this approach that today may well be my last, then how would I use my time? Where would I keep my mind? Would it be on what someone's said? Would it be on some pleasurable events that I hope to have? Or would it be on accumulating causes for that will bear its fruit for lifetimes to come? Because where we want to come to as the final conclusion in this part of the meditation is to change what we recognize as important, what we value, what we prioritize, and to no longer be so deceived by this life's ephemeral problems and ephemeral pleasures, but to let them go and rather have as our primary focus accumulation of virtue. This is what is important. This is how to live a meaningful life. And if it turns out that today is not my last day, that we do wake up in the morning and that even we have some years ahead, to have that block of time used well will mean we'll leave this world, leave this body without regret, perhaps even embrace our new life. Then thank you. We'll conclude there for tonight. Thank you.